Hey, welcome back to the Aggregate, the show with the sexy intro and the sexy talking heads. We've got a couple good-looking ones here today. We got Carl Summer. How you doing, buddy?
Great, man. How you doing?
Fantastic. Just happy to see you. Chocolate Thunder's here, which is always amazing because this guy is on like 5 different podcasts or shows, and he's traveling the country and the world, and he's arm wrestling and he's hosting things. So we're just lucky to have him on. Jody, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Today we're going to talk a little bit of postseason football. We're in a great time right now in the time of year. It's like we've got postseason college football, we've got postseason NFL football, we've got the NBA ramping up. Like we've got some good stuff. I always love fall and like early winter. We've got a lot of good things going on, but today it's going to be focused on some football and some postseason. College playoffs. We're going to turn our attention to that. We've got Notre Dame versus Ohio State. They're playing in a few days on the 20th here. We talked on our last football show about how they're number 7 and number 8 ranked in the playoffs. So interesting how the rankings came to be. We did talk a little bit about that, but number 7 and number 8 playing. But we're going to start right off the bat. We're not going to dig too deep into what we did on the last show. I'm going to start with Carl and want the prediction. Who you got and why? You got the Fighting Irish or you got the Fighting Buckeyes with the weed on the helmet?
I'm going Ohio State. Explosive, man. Speed. All cylinders a go right now. They're just clicking. After what they did to Oregon. I just think they looked the best. I think Texas gave them all they could give them, and Ohio State made the screenplay before halftime. The kid busted it, and then the sack, the strip by the defensive end Sawyer, and take it to the house. Like they're just clicking, bro. When special teams, defense, and offense is rolling, tough team to beat. I think Notre Dame's defense is good. I don't know about their offense. They're not that explosive, but they take care of the ball. That being said, I got 28-17 Buckeyes.
28-17 Buckeyes. All right, going with the number 8 over the number 7. Jody, what are you thinking here?
I'm going to say Ohio State. First of all, it's still funny that the top 4 teams in this playoff system never made it to the semifinals, but Ohio State's just blasting everybody. Texas was the only team that really kind of made them sweat a little bit, but ever since that Michigan loss, the season finale for Ohio State, something happened. And they just took the switch or whatever the case may be, and they just come in here blasting everybody. Notre Dame, I'm not going to say they're lucky, but, you turn the ball over against Ohio State, they're going to make you pay one way or the other. And like Carl said, if I can piggyback on his comment about them as Notre Dame not being explosive, what they're going to try to do is control the clock. The more time you keep Ohio State on the sidelines, the more you have a chance to win. But I think it's going to come down to special teams. I predict a pick 6 from Ohio State. So I'm saying Ohio State 34-17.
34-17, doubling them up. So interesting. When you look at these two rosters, Ohio State, they walk out a different 50 guys than Notre Dame does. Like their guys are just dudes from top to bottom. And they like to sling it around a little bit more. And they've got the spread run game attack. They've got Chip Kelly's running attack, but they do sling it a little bit more. Notre Dame, you're right, is going to try and grind it down. They love to do those quarterback runs, those quarterback draws. Their running back, has been hurt and come back from injury, but he played fine last game with his knee brace on. He seemed all right. Love, I believe, is his name. But their quarterback, he's definitely a runner more than a slinger, which I love. Reminds me of a good wing tee quarterback. Just going to run some quarterback ISOs and some quarterback draws, and they want to spread you out, but they don't have nearly the athletes that Ohio State does. And for me, I'm going to take Ohio State in a tight one. I'd say 27-21. And I think Ohio State's coaching staff's better. I think just with Chip alone, like I just think he's just so good. And as an offensive coordinator, I have so much respect for guys that are creative and can create mismatches and create, by formation, just out leverage people on the perimeter, and he does that really well. So, I think consensus Ohio State. And again, I'm not going to toot my own horn too much here, but I thought Oregon Ohio State was a national championship. I thought that was, and Ohio State unzipped and whipped it out and just said, "This is us. We're the big dog," right? They showed up. So I'm with you. So with the format, and we're going to talk NFL playoffs here in just a second, but NFL reseeds. If you notice the playoffs, they don't go by purely bracket, or else there would have been some different matchups.
Mm-hmm.
They reseed after that wild card round when they go into the divisional round. What do you think about this format with 12 teams, and do you think they should reseed? Carl, we'll start with you.
That's the first time I've thought about the reseeding. It definitely is something to think about. I mentioned this on the last show that we did when we talked the playoff format. All first round bye teams lost, right? And I think there's just something to be said about sitting out, especially in college sports. I mean, and you got 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that you got to stay focused for a long period of time without playing a game. So,
so put a pin in that for 1 sec then, because if you're going to have nobody sit out, you've either got to go to 8 teams or you've got to go to 16. And right now we're in this weird ass nebulous area of 12. Do you think we cut it down to 8 or go to 16?
Go to 16.
16. Okay. Invite more to the party. Huh?
Because I would have loved to see Alabama in there.
Oh, sure.
There's some teams in there that were right on that bubble that ended up not getting in. And it was like, those might have been some better matchups. And who knows, who's playing football the best at the end of the season might make the best run, right? So let's give some other guys a chance, right? Like, Boise State, you have to put them in there, but are they a 3 seed, right? Like, I don't, right? And Arizona State, like, I love how competitive, and I thought Arizona State got screwed in that game. There was the late hit to the head that I thought should have been called, but regardless, you got to win the game, right? So, Arizona State was another one, though. Should they have got a first round bye? Like, they won the conference, but, I don't know. So I do think if we expand to 18, I think that you're going to get better football and you're going to get more buy-in from fans. And, now you don't have that first round bye. So.
And real quick before I go to Jody here, I just did want to share something with you guys. Let me pull this up here. Just the game odds. I've actually been looking at a couple different odds things today. We're going to talk NFL odds too here in just a moment. So there's the line for you. They're Ohio State's favorite. I forgot to bring this up. I did want to show you one other thing too that I thought was kind of interesting, and I know Jody will especially like this. When you're looking at that most national championships now, you've got 2 of the top 5 teams with the most national championships. So you got a lot of history here. And Notre Dame's before 1936 also had a couple of them ahead of the time before they kind of started counting there. So not only most national championships, but most wins in college football history, you've got number 2 and number 4. So this is going into this. There's just so much tradition and so much history, and which that brings a lot of pride. And so I think that's why I think it's going to be a good fist fight. So, yeah, and I think that you've got a great point about going to 16 teams and inviting some teams. Again, Alabama could win it any year, right? They roll out big dogs. They get off the bus and you're like, oh shit, what did we get into? They're that team. So yeah, I think you're right. And then nobody has the advantage or the disadvantage. And then rest versus rust doesn't even come into play. Right. Everybody's been on the buffet circuit. Everybody's been in the cold tubs. Everybody's been getting treatment. So anyway, so we'll go to you, Jody. What do you think? 8 teams, 16 teams? What do you think about the format?
At what point do you stop? Because we started with the top 2 teams. Okay, fine. Then it went to the 4-team format. And then I think that one year, the first year they went to the 4-team format, I think that was the year Baylor and TCU made a big old gripe about, what about us? What about us? Then they went 8 teams, and now here we are. So at what point do you stop? You know what I mean? Because now this ain't basketball where okay, we can play the next day or 2 days later or next week. This is football where it's like going, okay, one, threatening injury and they're done. That might shatter some teams' dreams. I don't think Boise State was a 3 seed. I don't think Ohio State was an 8 seed. I think Ohio State, because they lost so late in the year that it dropped them and they had to, and everybody else kind of won, that kind of put them there. As far as Alabama, I know you would love to see what would they do. However, I feel that Alabama, no one's scared of them anymore. I think with this new portal system now, it kind of even the playing field for some, like, the top teams, because Alabama should have just walked in there and smacked everybody, but look where they ended up. Who would have thought Arizona State would be as good as they did when they went to the Big 12? So I think, honestly, this portal thing is kind of, even the playing field for some, well, not my Beavers, but they went ahead and even the playing field for some, because, look at last year. Who are we talking about last year in the title game? We're talking about Michigan and Washington, and neither one of them did anything great this year. So I kind of like how it's someone different every year, though, too. It keeps you thinking. So I'm okay with it now. I say run it 2 more years to see where we're at, before we start adding more teams.
So I want to piggyback off that real quick, Jeremy. I would rather see Oregon get an extra playoff game than play Portland State in a 0-week game. So I would rather scrap the money games at the start of the season and extend the college season, right? The only problem is that push towards now players need to get ready for the combine. That's the only kind of problem there. So do we move things up, in the season, right? So that's where it could be a little funky, I guess, is how long the season would go. But I would much rather see top level teams play top level teams versus them bring in, Tennessee, Chattanooga and put up 70 on them, right? So that's my only kind of counter to that is, I get the rest and the healthy, and trust me, I was one of those guys, right? Like you got to get your body right, but I also let's see the top guys play the top guys, right? So
well, back in the day, and I'm talking way back in the day, they used to, the final game was on New Year's Day or the 2nd, so we don't have to play this on January 20th is the game, so there's 3 weeks there of buffer that we really don't need. And as there became, there was the 4 big bowls, and there was a few small ones you played between Christmas and New Year's, and I'm talking about in the 80s and 90s and things like that. And then as it became, the Fruit Loops Bowl and the Mighty Key Car Care Bowl and the Minute Bowl, and they had all these like crazy bowls. Then they started to keep spreading it further and further and further and further, which is most sports too. The Super Bowl is played in the middle of February now, so I think you're right. Yeah, go for it.
What gets me is that, and I'm gonna be completely honest, because of the playoffs and what it brought, I did not recognize any fucking bowl games this year. I'm serious. Because the playoffs sucked up so much attention, which they should, that I forgot there were bowl games. I didn't even recognize there were bowl games. I really didn't. And I don't think anybody cared, honestly, unless your school was playing. I'm going to be honestly, I never saw one bowl game on TV.
And the top guys are sitting out now, right? Unless it's a playoff game.
Right.
Like Cam Ward, I think only played the first quarter or something, and he was like, "Oh, they got back to me, and I'm going to be the first pick possibly, so I'm out." So
he stayed in, and I think he was going for a record, right? And he's going for like a touchdown record or something, and he got it, and he's just like, why get myself hurt? I'm going to make millions.
And then they lost, and he got shit, right? So it's like,
it's tough to win.
But yeah, I'm with Jody on that, and like, you only need 6 wins to get into a bowl, which, my Beavers too, right? Like I pray for those 6 wins, but at the same time, like 6 wins is like that
means you get mediocre teams in bowl games. Like the only thing that benefits those 6-6 teams for going to the Hamburger Helper Bowl is the fact that you get some extra reps, right? That's it. You're mediocre. You shouldn't deserve to go to a bowl. I'm talking about any team. There are teams up there. I'm like going, why are you even playing right now? Y'all should be watching your college basketball team do some damage instead of going to a bowl that nobody cares about.
And now the portal's open in that time frame, right? So guys are like finishing their season, and then they're not even with their team when they go to the bowl. They've already gone to Ohio State or wherever else, right? So it's like a lot of stuff needs to change on that back end. Somebody in the NCAA office needs to get to work. So.
Yeah, and again, we said this before. It's year one. It's a work in progress. Hopefully they fix things, but boy, they've got a lot of fixing to do. And I think they're easy fixes, though. I think they're easy fixes. All right, well, let's put a bow on that a little bit, and let's get into the NFL playoffs. And let me bring up the bracket here real quick for you guys, so we can just take a look. See. All right. So, taking a look at the bracket, and I know that's kind of small here.
I got to put my glasses on, man.
Well, you know who's playing.
Oh,
Yeah, picture came through kind of small there. But you get the idea. Who do we like, Jody? We'll start with you. Who do you think's coming in hot now? We've got rest and rust versus in this situation too, right? In the NFL, because we got a couple bye teams, a couple bye week teams, Detroit and Kansas City. But who do we think looks good? Jody, we'll start with you.
You mean who I think's going to go all the way, or just in general?
Who do you think's a good, like a hot team right now? Who do you think that is like playing well and is coming in with momentum and is just going to come in and just roll through this game?
I would say Detroit. I mean, they're looking nice. I mean, in all aspects, offense, defense, special teams. I tell you what, though, the one scary team I'd be concerned with are the Rams. I'd be concerned after what they did to Minnesota. I would be concerned. Like, I wouldn't overlook them. On the AFC side, I mean, Baltimore's just looking obvious, but I think this is the year Buffalo breaks through. That's my honest opinion.
Now, Buffalo played Baltimore earlier this year, and I believe Baltimore won. They were missing a bunch of guys. They've got Amari Cooper now, which is definitely a big deal for them because their receiving core was depleted. They're definitely looking good right now, and we'll talk about this game in a little bit with a couple MVP candidates going head to head. And before I go to Carl, I will just say, so Mike was going to be on the show tonight, but he ended up having something to do. But he said before the LA and Minnesota game, he goes, boy, LA is a problem. And we talked about it a little bit. And I said, yeah, you've got a quarterback who's won a Super Bowl and can sling it with the best of them. They're not even using Cooper Kupp right now, and they're putting up points. I mean, God bless them if they use Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and they've got a great running back. They've got a solid defense and a coach, again, and I'm high on coaches, a coach who I really believe is one of the best coaches in the league. So LA is a problem right now, and I think Detroit, because Detroit ended up getting Washington with that win against Tampa Bay, or else they would have been playing Tampa Bay. I think Detroit is actually lucky they got Washington rather than LA. And the Eagles are a team that's known to stumble sometimes. So I think you're right. LA, definite problem. Carl, who you like? Who you think's coming in with a hot hand?
I'm with Jody. I got the Lions. Even after they've got a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and it's like they picked up every quality vet that wasn't signed with a team. And they've been balling. Like, they haven't really skipped a beat. The only, Jared Goff's been good. They even came back after like a 5-pick game that he had. What was that, Monday Night Football? He threw 5 picks in the first half or something, and they came back and won. I've got Detroit, especially with that matchup. I love Jaden Daniels and what he's done with Washington, but they just run out of firepower this week. And then in the AFC, man, it's tough. That Ravens-Bills game is going to be one, and I think the winner of that's going to end up beating Kansas City and going to Super Bowl. So, the Ravens look so damn good. I think both teams are going to stack the box against each other. You got to shut down both run games, and whatever Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, whoever, that's the MVP battle, right? Whoever airs it out the best is going to win that game. So.
Can you imagine if the Rams actually win and Detroit wins, the storyline both quarterbacks who play for each other's old teams will play, and the winner goes. Can you imagine that?
Yep.
I kind of want that to happen, actually, just for that storyline.
No, that is a great storyline, and to both of you like Detroit, and I will again clasp that onto my coaching belief there. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for Detroit, is probably my second favorite in the NFL besides Andy Reid, even though Andy Reid isn't quote unquote the coordinator, but come on, that's really his offense.
We all know
it's like when Belichick was hiring defensive coordinators. It's like, come on, bro, that's your defense.
But the show 2 shows ago, I did say this because we were talking about how good the Patriots are. And I mentioned that, they're not as explosive as they were when they went for the first Super Bowl run. That's what Eric Bieniemy was offensive coordinator, right? But now they make you beat yourselves. Like right now, the Chiefs should have 4 losses right now. They should, right? I think we can all agree they should be having 4 losses right now. They should be 13-4, but nonetheless, they did what they had to do. However, you got to understand what makes the Chiefs good is that they don't make that mistake. Buffalo always made that mistake. The Ravens always made that mistake, and Kansas City made you pay for it. But now it's going to come back to haunt them because both teams, meaning the Ravens and Bills, got much better than they did last year, and the Chiefs have still stayed the same. I think it's going to bite them in the butt this year.
Maybe, and it's always, I mean, Jesus Christ, they're going for their 3rd Super Bowl. Like nobody's ever done that, right? It's really hard to sustain 3 years in a row of excellence that they've done. The hard part is you've got the Chiefs have the coach and the quarterback. And with that too, that's like having 2 ace pitchers in baseball. When you get into the playoffs, if you have 2 ace pitchers in baseball, you're going to the World Series. Like that's just a thing. So getting back to Detroit, they've got Ben Johnson on offense who's super creative and is a monster with the clipboard. And then Aaron Glenn is killing it on defense. He's doing great things. And Carl mentioned all the injuries. I mean, they lost Aiden Hutchinson, who might be the best defensive end in the league. He was off to the defensive MVP start. Like, I think he had like 5 sacks in 2 games.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden gets hurt. And so, and he's got to be all of about 23, 24 years old too. So they're doing things with a clipboard that I totally respect. So again, and they have the quarterback. Goff is a guy who's not going to lose it for you a lot of times. And when given the right system, he's going to do the right things. And just like when he was in LA, he had a good coach and he was in the right system. And so he's a guy. Now, if Goff was on Houston, I don't know if he'd be the same guy. I think he's a system type of guy. So anyway, I think you guys are both on to it right here. Let's flip the script a little bit, and we'll start with Carl on this one. Where's your most likely upset in the 4 games? Who do you have the underdog is winning here?
Well, who do you call an underdog? I mean, when you look at the paper, it's like Washington is the biggest one on paper. For me, like just looking at the graphic, Bills Ravens is a toss-up, right? Like I don't see a true underdog in that game. Texans, I'm rolling them out with Washington. So for me, we get to that final game, which is Rams Eagles, and I think going into it, as Jody said, I wouldn't want to play the Rams right now, and that's who I'm going to pick. If there's an upset, it's going to be Rams over the Eagles. They're crazy, man. Like Cooper Kupp was on the chop block. People were tossing his name out at the trade deadline, and we're just going to blow this thing up and kind of restart. And now here they are, right? Second round and making a splash. Like they made Sam Darnold look like the old Sam Darnold. So that D line's getting after people. Their secondary looked good. I mean, Jet didn't really do much damage against them, right? So I'm going Rams over Eagles.
Yeah, when Cooper Kupp is your second receiver, you're not having a bad day. Like when he's your second best dude. And Nakua is a beast. He really is good. Jody, upset alert. Who you got?
I'll go around. I'm going to say the Rams, but I'm going to go around the other games. It won't be Washington. I say give them about 3 years, and then they'll be, honestly, it goes back to this. Once you get this deep into the playoffs, it's all about the quarterbacks, right? It's been a long time since we had a team led by quarterbacks. We're not talking about Trent Dilfer and the Buccaneers, or I'm sorry, Trent Dilfer and the Ravens. We ain't talking about Brad Johnson and the Buccaneers. This day and age is all about the quarterbacks. The Commanders, they got a quarterback, but he doesn't have a lot of experience. And I think that's going to overwhelm him. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. As far as the Ravens and Bills, I mean, you can flip a coin, honestly. Chiefs and Texans. Texans are always good at winning that wild card round, but they can never get above that. So my upset would have to go be the Rams, because I'm telling you right now, Matt Stafford, I mean, it's always interesting when you go into a game and no one expects you to win. There's that pressure off of you right now. The Eagles, you're at home. You should win this game, but there's no guarantees. And I'm telling you right now, if they ain't careful, they might drop 24 points on you.
Yeah. No, I think when you talk about the Texans, DeMeco Ryans has a really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they do have a very good defense. Stroud has a couple receivers who they're not A receivers in my opinion, but they're B pluses and they're pretty damn good.
Nico Collins is a receiver.
You think he is? Okay, yeah. See, Nico Collins, I don't know. I feel like he hasn't taken that step into. I had a 1,400-yard year, or a 1,500. You know what I'm saying?
If Tank Dell was healthy, I would probably give him more of his shot to win this game, because I think if Kansas City has a weak point, it's that secondary.
Yep. Well, in Kansas City, here's the deal with Houston. I really like them picking up Joe Mixon too, and helping their run game this year, and giving that every down back who doesn't have to be subbed out. The guy can catch passes. He can run you over. He can run around you. I think Joe Mixon's a very underrated back. And so that's a good one. Yeah. Baltimore, the Baltimore, and I'm going to say this and we'll talk about it in just a second here. Carl, you're an MMA guy, and Jody, you can even translate this to arm wrestling too. And styles make fights, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then I look at it and I go, okay, well, Baltimore has got a better running game this year, but boy, Josh Allen at home, what if it snows? And he's like really, really good in the snow, and Lamar Jackson is not really, really good in the snow. Like, there's so many variables to these games, but I think Detroit just mops. I think Detroit makes Daniels look like a rookie, and Daniels is so good. I've said on this show a million times about how no running quarterback has ever won the Super Bowl. He might be the first one to do it. And not that I'm taking anything from Lamar Jackson. He could very well do it too. But Jaden Daniels, boy, I did not see him coming. And he was drafted high. And I thought, oh, okay, there's been a lot of running quarterbacks that win the Heisman and blah, blah, blah. And he's at LSU, and his guys are always wide open. But boy, he's really impressed. So I think I'm with you guys. I think the Rams over the Eagles, just because the Eagles their coaching staff is just stupid. I'm sorry. They got the worst fucking coaching staff. They have clock management issues. They've got play issues. I don't know. I don't think Sirianni is very good. And then they win a game and everyone's like, oh, Sirianni. No, you fucking hated him last week for losing the game, and now you love him this week for winning the game. Like,
that's Philly fans for you. And by the way, they have not been the same since they won that Super Bowl against the Patriots. They went backwards.
Right.
I've never seen a franchise go backwards that quick, after winning the Super Bowl.
What puzzles me is how Philly has so many guys that have big playability, but they'll fucking score 17 points. It makes no sense to me. Like, you have a running back that is – maybe one of the greatest we've ever seen. And then you got speed with Devontae Smith. You got a big receiver with A.J. Brown. You got a Dallas Goedert as a tight end. I mean, the list goes on. And it's like, even if you are scoring in, air out games where it's like,
Sorry, my internet froze on me for a second.
Oh, you're good.
You're good.
What'd I miss?
We're just talking about how Philly's offense is just should be explosive, but they're not. They're scoring
Carl,
points.
Don't forget the best offensive line in the league, probably.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy to me. Like, it's absolutely. And is that Jalen Hurts? Is that, to your point, is it coaching? Is it play calling? What is it? I mean, they should be putting up 28 a game, no problem.
3 words for you: running quarterback. I know that's 2 words. I just like to say it 3. So, no, I'm not a Jalen Hurts believer. I think he's okay. I think he's more of a manager. I don't think he's as good as people as they say he is. I think he needs to run more. They need to design more runs for him because he's better at that than he is throwing the ball downfield. AJ Brown had 1 catch last game. What?
That's the dumbest thing I've heard. Your key guy with 1 catch. Are you kidding me? You're gonna need more this week, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I don't think that, like I said, that comes down to coaching. I don't think Andy Reid would ever do that. I don't think Ben Johnson would ever do that. I don't think some of these good offensive coordinators would ever not get it to your best guys. That's rule number 1 as an offensive coordinator. Put the ball in your hands of your best receiver. If you can't throw him the ball, if he's getting blanket covered, you got to find a way to run off that top receiver and get him something underneath, or give him a reverse, or do something to get the ball in Devontae Smith and AJ Brown's hands. Because Saquon's going to get his, right? I mean, they have the best offensive line. They're going to run the ball. He's a stud. But yeah, that's a great point that they just have all these weapons everywhere and can't score sometimes. And then sometimes they look great and they score 35.
I would too if I was playing Jacksonville.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, and exactly. I mean, that's it. That's like they like to flex after these big wins against these crap teams, and it's crazy. So we've got who's hot. We've got our underdogs. Let's talk Super Bowl predictions, and Jody, we'll start with you. Who do you predict to play in it, and who do you predict to win?
Lions and Bills. And this is big because, neither team has been to the Super Bowl before. So I think, this is where I really think Detroit's going to take it. I honestly do. And I say that because they should have won last year's NFC title game against the Niners. They should have won that. And now, basically what they're doing is just building off of that loss. Dan Campbell got them boys playing like no other. And they got them boys playing invincible. Like, seriously. Get your loss toward the end of the year. I think they lost 1 game toward the end of the year. One of those games. Get that out of your system so that way we can make that run. And it's good to get that out of your system because, I say with the Chiefs, they got that 1 loss against Buffalo. Get that out your system because you can't afford to lose no more. And this is why I think Detroit's just going to run away with it.
Okay, give me a score.
That's going to be a high-scoring game. If I'm being honest, high-scoring game. I'm going to say 35-31.
35-31, and you're going with the Lions to break the curse, huh?
Yep.
All right, Carl, what do you got?
I got Lions, Ravens. Lions win it. And I think it's a 28-24 type game.
Okay. So still relatively high scoring.
I think both teams run the ball really well. I think both defenses are good, but there's gaps. And I think both coaching staffs are really good. So, to find, the weakness, the holes in the systems. So you're going to give up some points, and it's going to come down to a fumble, a pick six, a possible punt return or punt block, something like that, right? And I think, at least as football fans, that's what we're all hoping for, right? I don't want to go into the Super Bowl and see a 42-7 game. So, I think the way that the Ravens run the football between Lamar and Derrick Henry, it's tough. And then you add those guys with the weapons on the outside. Now, I don't know if Zay Flowers is coming back. I don't know if that's been announced yet, but
I believe he is.
Yeah. So I know he set out last week, but Zay Flowers comes back. That adds another guy you got to worry about with major speed on the outside. I just love what the Lions do offense and defensively. I think they're clicking. I'm a huge Dan Campbell guy. I think that his coaching staff and him they got those guys ready to run through a brick wall. So, love what they're doing. And look, Montgomery's out. and now Gibbs is full time, and it's like, man, how dangerous is that guy as a full time back? So
they don't miss a beat.
It's been fun to watch them, and even when Hutchinson and other guys go down, and you see him sign these guys off the streets that were seasoned vets 5 years ago, and now these guys are getting sacks and making plays. It's like that's just a system that has players, coaches in it, that guys that understand how they win games with what they got. So I got Lions winning it all.
So I'm going to go opposite of everything you guys are saying. In front of
Chiefs. He's going Chiefs. Look out.
In front of God and the internet. Well, I come from a Chiefs household. Okay. And I didn't grow up liking the Chiefs. I grew up a Redskins fan. But when you married someone who's named KC, you got to become a Chiefs fan at that point, Like, when I started dating my wife, she didn't know, she couldn't tell you the difference between a football and a volleyball, but she had a Kansas City, like a Christmas ornament, and she had Kansas City in this and Kansas City in that, because she spells her name Kacey. So he's got the KC. So now we're a Kansas City family. Okay. So this has been a good couple years. We're not the old Steve DeBerg days. We're talking about the Mahomes days. So I'm going to take Kansas City. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. I think Buffalo beats Baltimore. And then I think they choke. They lose to the coaching again. They lose to coaching and Kansas City goes. I think the Eagles are going to beat Detroit, and they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Are we going to see another Chiefs and Eagles shoot? All right. Well,
it's going to be Chiefs and Eagles, and the Eagles are going to get schooled. The guys with the clipboards on the Chiefs side are going to school the guys with the clipboards on the Eagles side. Again, I'm going all coaching here. I can't – I was a shitty football player, but I was a hell of a coach. So I got to go with the coaching here. So
and you think Dan Campbell's going to get out coached by the Eagles? Like, really?
I don't think Dan Campbell does any coaching. I think he's a cheerleader.
You think Sirianni's better than what he's going against?
No, I don't think he's better than what he's going against, but I think it's a big – with the time they get to one game away from the Super Bowl. And, again, I just said Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, my second favorite staff. Mm-hmm. Besides Spagnuolo and Andy Reid, right?
Yeah.
Which I think that's a lot of people would say that. Like Kansas City probably has the best staff. I just think maybe they're a year away, and maybe next year when they get Hutchinson back and they get all these fresh bodies back, and Jahmyr Gibbs has a little bit of relief. And I know Jahmyr Gibbs is amazing, great friggin' back, but he's carrying the load by himself, and that's tough nowadays. Something in my gut says that Philly, with their experience, gets them, goes to the Super Bowl, and it's 27-17, and Mahomes wins his third one, and it's a dream of mine because then everyone will say he's better than Brady, and we can close the door on that Uggs-wearing motherfucker who played for the Patriots because, God damn it, he was good, but I just can't take it anymore in my lifetime. I need somebody else. So I will take the Kermit-talking, perm-wearing, like – Instagramming with his girlfriend, Mahomes, over Brady. So again, is this with my heart? Yes, it's with my heart more than it is my head, but we're going with my heart. And God damn it, if they win it, then you two are back on here, and I will take all of the ass kissing and back patting I can get. Jody, go.
First of all, that'll be Patrick's fourth ring, by the way, not third. It'll be his fourth.
A third in a row. I'm sorry.
Okay. Because if that holds true, that means his only Super Bowl wins in 4 games have been against the Niners and Eagles, right?
That would be awesome.
I mean, think about that. It's almost like Tom Brady can never beat Eli in the Super Bowl. He's 0-2 against him, right? Right. So
Eli owns Tom.
Right. So it could be that where here's Patrick Mahomes. I got 4 rings. All I had to do was beat the Eagles twice and the Niners twice. There you go. Right. But yeah, I mean, it could go that way. I mean, I still think that Buffalo will come out because I think the Ravens secondary is trash. Honestly, they're going to get exposed because if Baltimore has a weak link, it's their secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh Allen's probably licking his chops going, oh, I'm going to light you guys up. You better hope. And if it don't snow, I'm tearing you guys up. I'm telling you.
So let's go to that game then, and let's transition to the MVP. So it's been kind of Lamar shot out early. There was some good MVP talk. Josh Allen took over a little bit, and then Lamar Jackson came back with some great games, and so it's kind of been Lamar and Josh, right, all season, which I think should be mixed in with Saquon Barkley. I don't know how he's getting overlooked because he was close to the rushing record, and he sat out a game, and he could have got it, even though it's 17 games, I know. But still, impressive season, right? I mean, 2,000 yards in 16 games, that's pretty damn good. It hasn't been done by a lot of people. So, Carl, we'll start with you. Who do you have for the MVP? You got Lamar or Josh, or you got somebody else?
I would love to give it to a defensive player, but that'll never happen.
Yeah, it'd have to be one hell of a defensive player.
Look, I've got Lamar. I just think for the division that he's in, I don't know. I just think he's playing. To me, it's tougher football. They're a run-first team. You added Derrick Henry to it. I understand that. He's opening up the box a little bit more for him to throw and to get active. I think he takes better care of the football. I've got Lamar. I love Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen brings some great things and does great things. And I do think at some point he is an MVP. I just don't think it's this season.
Okay, going Lamar again. It's a broken record if Lamar wins it again, right? He's just can keep winning.
It'll be his third one, right? His third MVP.
Yeah, that would be 3 for him. What do you think, Jody? You got Allen, Jackson, or somebody else?
I mean, it's pretty much first of all, I'll say this. I don't like the way they do this now. They used to have all the MVP stuff done before the playoffs started. Mm-hmm. And now what they do is like, okay, is it a regular season award or is it regular season and playoff? I don't think that's fair. You know what I mean? That's just me, though. I don't like the way the professional sports do that, especially in the NBA, but that's another topic for another day. I think Lamar does more. And because Carl, this is where I'm going to piggyback on his comment about protecting the ball, where Josh Allen is like, okay, I'm going to gunsling it. It's a crapshoot. I still think, they'll be Baltimore, but I think Lamar already got that thing already signed, sealed, delivered. Honestly, it don't matter what happens. I think if Baltimore loses this weekend, which I think they will, I think Lamar still takes it home.
So, I like to count these words. I got 2 words for you. Voter fatigue. And I think they're tired of Lamar. I think the NFL wants to get another name in there. How come Jordan didn't win more MVPs? How come LeBron didn't win more MVPs? Was it because the players that won them better than them? Or was it because voter MVP? Who thought that Karl Malone was better than Jordan?
Hold on. That 4-year span, it was Jordan Malone. So for 4 years, you had the 2 same guys going at it. And, I don't think it wasn't voter fatigue. Because I remember Larry Bird won 3 straight. He earned every one of those he won. He earned it. That's not a voter fatigue. That's legit. Those are facts.
Voter fatigue is new.
I know. Brett Favre won 3 straight MVPs, but he did what he had to do. Now, in those 3 years that Brett Favre won MVP, 3 straight years, now one time did he go to Super Bowl. And I think now you have the voter fatigue. You got, did your team win the Super Bowl? Did you get your team to a Super Bowl? That wouldn't look. It was regular season. What you did in regular season mattered,
Well, I think also leagues like to promote different people. Steve Nash winning over Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, Dirk Nowitzki winning over LeBron. There's just been so many times that they just in the NFL isn't as bad about it as the NBA is. But I think you might see some voter fatigue, and I think Josh Allen wins it. And again, I don't have a dog in this race. I don't really care. I would vote for Saquon Barkley, honestly, because I'm kind of like Carl. I feel like quarterbacks should have their own award, or a defensive player could probably win it, but you'd have to be Reggie White or Deion Sanders. Those are the kind of players that could really win it as a defensive player. But I think this is like turning into the not the Heisman as bad as the Heisman will still give it to a running back, but I think the NFL is just so quarterback centric nowadays that it's just so hard to win it if you're not one. And if Saquon Barkley rushes for 2,000 yards and can't win it and has a high seeded playoff team, I don't know if we're ever going to see a non-quarterback win it again.
So there's only one stat that Josh Allen has better than Lamar, and it's rushing touchdowns. He has 12, and Lamar has 4.
That's because you got Derrick Henry in the backfield.
No, right.
Passing touchdowns, Josh has 28, Lamar has 41. So Josh's touchdowns combined aren't as much as Lamar's just through the air.
Yeah.
Lamar's also attempted 10 less passes on the year, and he's got almost 500 yards more through the air.
Yeah.
So the Bills picked up Amari Cooper. Can you name 2 receivers on the Bills?
Yeah, the dude that wears no shoes, Mac Hollins.
Wait, did you say Mac Hollins?
Yeah, he wears no shoes. He's grounded.
That's a deep cut.
Look, anybody that bets on sports knows players that they shouldn't know. So yeah, Mac Hollins, Shakir, Khalif Shakir, what's his name?
Right, that was his main guy all year.
And then who's the dude that had the Curtis Samuel, ex-Ohio State Buckeye?
Yeah, they got Samuel made that big play last week, and so I think that stat wise, you look at Lamar Jackson and he's got all the stats, and I was going to say that is every stat's better. He's got more yards, got more touchdowns. I think he has less interceptions too.
Yeah, he does.
But yeah, he's definitely, and he's a more dynamic runner. Like he gets out into the open. Josh Allen's great. Josh Allen's a freight train because he's a big old country boy. But Lamar Jackson will make you miss and look silly and accelerate and can take it 80 at any minute, right? So I think Lamar Jackson had the better year. I in my heart, I wish Saquon would win it. And in my head, I think Josh Allen will win it.
And I'm also going to say Josh Allen has a better O-line.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with both of their O-lines. I feel like they both did a pretty good job because Derrick Henry can't do it by himself.
Yeah.
And he ran for a good amount of yards this year. Like Derrick Henry could be the MVP. I don't know why he's not on this list. Like I'd put Derrick Henry up there above Goff, Mahomes, and Herbert.
How stupid do the Titans look?
What's that?
How stupid do the Titans look?
Very.
But I mean,
if you're not going nowhere, I mean,
how stupid have the Titans looked since Steve McNair left?
I mean they let Vrabel walk, and and who knows who their damn quarterback is? They don't know who their damn quarterback is. Tannehill was better than all the guys they have now. And then
didn't they have Fitzpatrick at one point?
Yeah,
Fitzmagic.
Yep.
You
look at what they did with the 2 dumbest offseason moves, and I watched that Hard Knocks in the offseason with the Giants, is them letting Barkley go and the Titans letting Henry go. And just saying publicly, these guys are, look at the average running back, like they're going to fade. And all these guys did was prove them wrong each game.
Now, is it because they were free agents or they got traded? Because there's a difference. If I'm Saquon, I know, well, I'm getting crushed every year because my O-line is like garbage. I have to do a lot to make things work, and we're not going to win. It's the environment, That whole New York environment is horrible right now. The Jets, Giants, no good. Tennessee, no good. Like, it's the atmosphere. If you know you're not going nowhere and you're coming up on your final year, hey, you want to resign? Nah, I'm going to go ahead and take my, chances in the free agent field because somebody's going to want you. Sure enough, they got it.
Yeah, I don't think if I recall from watching the off-season Hard Knocks, the GM was like, "Hey, here's our dollar figure. We don't think you're worth more than this figure." It was like 20-something million, right? And he's like, "I know I'm worth more than that figure." And they were going back and forth, and they were like, "Well, you can go test the market." And sure enough, like
I think the Giants were
gone.
The dumbest ones because you let Saquon go to your fucking division rival. What was that about?
Mm-hmm.
Trade him. If anything, I bet you can get more for Trent because you let him walk. You didn't get that in return. If you would have traded him, I bet you would have got something in return. Draft picks or something like that, but you don't let him walk and go to the same freaking team in your same division that you get to see twice a year. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he walked for 2,000 yards. he walked a long way away.
He could have put 800 on the Giants.
And if they would have played, he would have got that 2,000. He would have broke Dickinson's records against the Giants.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
By the way.
So let's stay in division then. Let's stay in that division and let's talk Isaac Legron's favorite team. Hopefully Isaac watches these every now and then, and or your grandpa's favorite team back in the day.
Yeah.
The Cowboys. What do we think about Jody? We'll start with you. What do you think about Neon Dion possibly coming for the Cowboys? Would that be a fit?
It won't matter. Doesn't matter who you pick as a coach.
Damn.
No, I'm being for real. Think about it for a sec. As long as Jerry Jones got his fingerprints on that franchise, they're not going to go. You fired, and I'm going to go way back to when, Carl was like, playing with Legos. When you sit there and you fire Jimmy Johnson, fresh off back-to-back Super Bowl championships, and you fire him? Really? How many coaches that were great coaches came to that organization and they said, I'm out, or they got fired? McCarthy, Parcells, Quinn. Seriously, it ain't going to matter because Jerry Jones got to put his fingerprints on everything. Say, look here, man, what you got to do, if you're the owner, own. If you're the coach, coach. If you're the GM, manage. Do what you got to do, but you can't wear all the hats. Mike Holmgren did that in Seattle. He was the head coach and the GM. You can't do everything.
Yeah, it's some people like they say, shop for the groceries before they make the dinner, and it's really hard to do that. It's nice if you can just focus on your job. And so Dion's at Colorado right now, and he's doing good things, but I mean, his kid's about to go into the NFL, and he's got a couple more that are going to be on their way, at least one more that's going to be on this way to the NFL. So it's tough to see that happening with Jones and Dion, but you never know what their relationship has. Carl, what's your take on it?
I hope that Dion stays in college football. I think it's good for Dion, and I think it's good for the game of football. Mm-hmm. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if this deal gets done. And I wouldn't be surprised after hearing Dion publicly say there's a few teams that Shedeur won't play for. I am just going to say I wouldn't be surprised if somehow they end up in Dallas together. And I don't know what will happen with Dak. To me, Shedeur is – I could get slammed online for saying this. I don't care. I don't think Shedeur is a first-round talent.
I agree.
So, yeah, I mean, if Jerry wants to, generate revenue and bring more money in and, drive more nice cars like he needs any more damn dollars, then make this move. But I don't see it ending well for the Dallas Cowboys franchise. I think that there's better guys, Ben Johnson. There's better guys for that job if they want that job.
Yep, I agree. And that's a tough sell. I don't think there's a lot of people that will say, boy, super fit, like a strong personality with Bill Parcells. That's exactly what he needs. I don't think a lot of people are saying that. Another coach we want to transition to, and Jody, this is your account with the Steelers here, talking about Mike Tomlin. And people are wondering if it's his time to go, if it's time to make a change. And not necessarily because it's Tomlin, but because all things kind of run their course, and run to the end. And maybe he's just the coach that can't do it for them anymore past the 10 or 11 wins. A great regular season coach, never had a losing record, all that good stuff. But, thinking about, is it time for him? I'd love to hear your take on this. What do you think about Tomlin?
Well, first of all, let me go ahead and set the scene. I want y'all to think about something. 56 years. That franchise has only 3 coaches. Think about that for a second. 56 years, they've had only 3 coaches. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. Okay. Now, granted, Tomlin, I mean, all his success came early, but those are the guys that Cowher drafted. Nothing wrong with that. But after a while, yeah, you can go 15, 16, 17 years or whatever with no losing seasons, but when it counts in the playoffs, you can't deliver. So I don't know if it's a thing of, hey, we need a new voice or what. I don't know if it's the decision making, because some of the play calls, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? There was a 4th and 1 call early in the game we didn't go for. I'm like going, why not? What is wrong with y'all? You know, I don't get it. We thought last year, okay, we got rid of the quarterbacks. We got rid of offensive coordinator Matt Canada. We bring in Arthur Smith, who used to be the Atlanta Falcons head coach. I thought anybody but Canada would have been better. And it seemed like we got so predictable with our offense. It was like, are you kidding me? You know, I don't know. I don't think getting rid of Tom is the answer, but at the same time, you're kind of on the cusp. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I love the guy. Yeah, he's good regular season, but let's be real. Dude, they stopped listening to you, man. You in the game on a 5-game losing streak, or in the season on a 5-game losing streak? Like, dude, what the fuck? Think about it. We were 10-3 at one point. Like, we were a 3 seed projected at one point, and then we lose the next 5 games. I'm like going, what is going on with us? I mean, there was a moment where we had a 2-game lead over Baltimore. You know what I mean? And it's like going, okay, like we don't have the horses. We need one more receiver to go along with Pickens, and he needs to straighten up as it is anyway, because I can't take no more of him pouting and stuff. But at the same time, when you don't throw the ball to him, no targets, what do you expect? You know, like if I got like a Pickens, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, whoever, if I got one of those guys, I'm gonna make sure I get the ball to them, right? The last time we were good at throwing the ball, Big Ben was quarterback. We had Juju and we had Antonio Brown. That was the last time we were like weapons. But I think Todd Haley might have been the offensive coordinator then, though. But still, it's just like, I don't think getting rid of Tom is the answer, because who's out there as a coach? Who's out there? You know?
Well, yeah, and I think that's the idea, is if you're going to get rid of someone, it's got to be better. But,
right.
You know, I suppose, is Tomlin the guy that they retool with, or do they, like Carl was saying, do you take a flyer? It's 2025. Do you take a flyer on a guy like a Ben Johnson who understands the game as it's evolved now, maybe a little bit better, and is ready to be a head coach? Or do you say, okay, if we get Tomlin, if we settle the quarterback situation down, we get him a couple receivers, you know, the defense always plays well. He's a great leader. Do we keep him and give him another shot? And I think they're also worried about finding somebody for another 15 years, because they aren't the team that just rotates through over and over again.
No, we're not the Raiders. We're not that. So.
No, the Raiders, they got issues. They got, first of all, none of their owners can get a damn haircut. And right. Second of all, they just rotate through. So, Carl, what do you think? Is it time to move on from Tomlin, or is it time for him to move on, maybe do a different team?
I hope not. When I think Pittsburgh Steelers, I think of Mike Tomlin. I mean, that's for me and my generation. Like, that's what I think. You know, that's a badass dude with a badass defense and a juggernaut offense that'll run it down your throat. And that's, I think, what makes them successful and makes that graphic that we're looking at. I think that's what makes that go. What I think they need is a true quarterback and somebody that can air it out and make those decisions. Russell Wilson had, I think his completions of passes like under 15 yards was god awful, but he has like the highest completion of over 15 or 20 yards, which is crazy to me. But where was that the last 5 games of the season? They were not a vertical threat at all. So, and we could talk Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for the next 3 hours, and I'm sure we could have crazy debates. But to me, those aren't the answers for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's get you a pro-style quarterback that can air that thing out and hand it to those explosive backs that you have. We don't need a guy that's running for his life back there. So,
well, Sam Darnold will probably be available after his last couple games. They'll go back to J.J. McCarthy, and
Sam Darnold
might be the guy.
I'm off that wagon. I don't know. I was never sold on it to begin with.
Sometimes you need a new scenery to flourish. Like, does anybody remember Kurt Warner playing for that 1 year with the Giants? Not a lot, right?
When didn't he mentor Eli?
But the thing is, though, he played that 1 year, and nobody fucking remembers that. They remember Kurt Warner with the Rams and Cardinals. No one remembers that 1 year, right? So I think sometimes you need that new scenery. And just to comment off of what Carl said, the vertical threat only happened when we ran that 2-minute offense. If you notice, it was bip, Jalen Warren out the backfield, bip, fire move, Mike Williams every once in a while. So it's like when we ran a 2-minute offense, just let them play. We did good. It just seems like let's go ahead, and we don't have that running back. I mean, we do, but for some reason, is it me or is it like when Jalen Warren's in the game, he hits the hole, we get yards, right? But you don't get the same thing.
Here comes Najee Harris just running in mud.
Motherfucker, you went to Alabama with fucking Derrick Henry. You ought to know what the hell goes on.
I can feel the passion. I can feel it through the screen. Yeah, touchy stuff with the Steelers, but we'll see. Mike Tomlin he's an industry man. He's more than just a coach. And like you said, Carl, I mean, I'm a good 10 to 15 years older than you. Not that. So no, I'm about 10 years older than you. And I'd say I think of him too. I mean, I think of Chuck Noll a little bit, and I think of, because that's when I was born, that's who it was. And then you think of Bill Cowher when they were, going to the Super Bowls against Dallas and doing things like that. But Mike Tomlin he's just been the dude. God, he's such a good leader, and he looks just like Omar Epps, so you can't take that away from him either.
I've been watching the in-season Hard Knocks, and watching Tomlin. I mean, the dude never leaves the office. He's got a cup of black coffee in his hand at 24/7. He's watching film, and he's watching film with players, coaches. I mean, he's in his office all day. So that dude is like, I mean, to me, like that's as a player, you're coming in and you're seeing your coach set that example, and the dude is he's ready. Like he knows what's coming. Now you just got to you have to find another Ben Roethlisberger. Like you have got to find a quarterback somewhere. And there's, unfortunately, unless it's Darnold, right, there's not a lot of those guys that you can trade. So who's your guy in the draft? Who is that guy that you can find in the second round, maybe, right? That is that pro style quarterback that can air it out. So
is it Quinn from Texas? I don't know. But it's hard when you're Pittsburgh reminds me of the Blazers. They do not the recent ones, but they do just enough to where we don't get that good pick, but they don't do good enough to where we go further. So we got pick 21, if I'm not mistaken. Pittsburgh has the 21st pick. And I'm like, all right, man. I mean, we need a lot of help. Like, I think with the O-line, it just seems like if we could block just a little bit more, if our secondary wouldn't be so many boneheads. I mean, we had some killer penalties that killed us over some dumb shit. I'm like, y'all killing me. That's just youth. But, Cam Hayward getting older, man. If you got TJ Watt, you got a chance. But he was on the back of a milk carton the last couple of weeks, though.
He was hurt. He's been fighting injuries.
Yeah. But this is where everybody else got to step up. Meek act like he didn't want to be there. That whole team, it's almost like we were waiting for something big to happen, then we react to it. Well, fuck, by that point, you're already down 3 touchdowns.
Well, we don't want to mention Mink on this show because I don't think he can smell oranges anymore or knows what the letter Q is. Like Derrick Henry slapped him so hard that guy's grandchildren are going to have headaches. That was mean. It was just mean. Derrick Henry's not a good dude. No, that was pretty funny.
They need the old school Steelers to come on the sideline and kick him in the nuts. They need Polamalu, James Harrison, Larry Foote, Casey Hampton, all those guys for the Super Bowl team to come on the sideline and just punch them on the mouth going, The hell are you doing? You're tarnishing our legacy. The way y'all playing like garbage. Seriously.
Well, and I'm glad that James Harrison isn't playing anymore, because after that stiff arm, he would have gotten a gun and just shot Derrick Henry, because that's who James Harrison is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've covered a good amount today. We've got our predictions in. We've got it on film now, guys. So there's no going back. Everyone's going to see this and see how crazy my predictions are. And if they're true, like I said, I will gloat heavily.
Oh, I wouldn't expect nothing less.
Nothing less. So let's close it out here real quick, and we'll let you guys get on with your nights. New Year's was just a couple weeks ago. Carl, I'm going to start with you. Did you make any New Year's resolutions? Are you a New Year's resolution guy, or is it just like I'm just changing my calendar?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been that guy. A couple years ago, I tried being sober for a month, and now 2 years later, I'm still sober. So, that's always something like to
yeah,
like, hey, let's just keep going on that train.
Was that a New Year's resolution?
So it was, yeah. It was like, I'm just going to do this for 30 days. I'm going to do that dry January thing for 30 days and see how it goes. And, with fighting and everything, you were like, man, my body just feels way better already after 30 days. I'm just going to keep this going. And here we are 2 years later, still completely clean. So, then for this year, I was like, because I may or may not be competing April 10th, Idaho, mark your calendars. But I do have 2 goals this year, and they're both marathons. So I want to run a half marathon and I want to run a full marathon. My goal is to run the Portland Marathon. I believe it's in like the end of September or early October. So going to do a half somewhere, probably after the fight in April, and then run that full one in Portland Marathon.
Okay, so not necessarily resolutions, but things that you want to accomplish in 2025. Yeah. You've got some goals.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Jody, resolution or goals, anything like that you're going to pick up this year?
Probably just be healthier. I know as we get older, I'll be 49 next month. So, the weight just keeps creeping up for me. And like Carl, when you compete at a certain sport, you got to stay within a certain range before you get bumped up to another weight class. So, now I recently just got word I'll be competing for the 231-pound Independence Championship coming up at the Armed Gods Winter Blast Festival in Philadelphia in March. So I got to be 231. Well, I'm at 245 right now. So I really got to. I mean, it's doable. I got to get in gear. But, and Carl, you can relate to this. When you're compete at a high level, you really got to watch what you eat and how you eat and all that kind of stuff. And, I was more like, F it, it is what it is, because I deal with a bunch of stuff to where, I got to really just dial it in. So I just want to be, healthier, because as I put on that holiday weight, I just went, fuck, I felt sluggish. I hate feeling like that. So now I'm going to really dial it in, because if I lose at least 10 to 12 pounds or whatnot, I'll feel a little bit better. It's just, I just feel sluggish now. And holiday, usually at the end of the year, it does it to me all the time.
Well, as the standing fat guy here, Carl, your dad dropped off some new resistance bands for me the other day.
Yeah.
And so starting to use those and get into them and get a little workout in every now and then. And I mean, I could lose 10 to 12 pounds right after this by just taking a shit. Like it might, it just happens. I always tell people I do a 400-pound squat every time I get up out of my chair. So, but yeah, no, it's good. I think we all, as we get a little bit older, start to see that metabolism slow down and things get a little bit different. My last question for you, I'm going to start with Carl on this, because everyone has it. What's the food or drink that you are just a slave to, that it's your kryptonite, that like you could eat 1,000,000 pounds? There's always something, whether it's food or drink or candy or something. What just gets you?
So, and this ties into the getting sober thing. Diet Coke. Like, I was never a big soda guy, unless it was mixed with whiskey or tequila or something. But Diet Coke now, like if I go out, like I want a Diet Coke. And then I'm a sugar fanatic. Now that I'm sober, it's like I have a craving. Like I need sugar. So it's like I've always got in my middle console of my truck, there's like gummy of some sort, whether it's gummy bears, worms, something. And then underneath that is a can of Zins or Copenhagen. But and then going to Dairy Queen, like some ice cream. Boy, I'll tell you what, like if I cut those things out, I'd probably be the perfect individual. But I need some sort of a vice, right? So it's
Sure.
I got to throw some money on some games every once in a while. I got to eat sugar and I got to get a Diet Coke.
Okay. No, that's good. And that's a lot better than a lot of other choices you could make.
Right.
My wife's the same way. The sweet and sour gummy worms. She likes those snakes that are like sweet and sour together.
Yes.
You get those. So I have a feeling I already know a couple of Jody's, but Jody, tell me what's the vice? What's the one thing you can never say no to? It's your kryptonite.
I'm a foodaholic, so it's like, I love the chicken strips. You can't go wrong with that, but I can't have it all the time. But yeah, I mean, soda and candy. If I can eliminate that, I'd feel better. But it's like going, can I do that as a lifestyle change? There are going to be times where, man, I need a beer, and when you get ready for these, these events and these matches or whatnot,